The 7 Master Keys for Success with Deliberate Creation. Lessons in Truth for Manifesting Your Miracles by Peter D. Adams. Narrated by Aaron Sin. About the author. Pete Adams is a philanthropist and both a master and teacher of the law of attraction and manifestation. Pete has studied the greatest teachers of all time, and he has combined their teachings with specific techniques, which he has successfully used to create miracles in his life. Since 2004, Pete has been a full-time entrepreneur and business owner. As an author and teacher, he now feels that it is time to share his techniques and message with others to greatly improve the quality and satisfaction of their lives. Pete proudly served his country as a paratrooper in the United States Army Long Range Surveillance Detachment, LRSD. His interests include reading, golf, tennis, skiing, hiking, snowshoeing, and competing in endurance athletic events. He is a 7-time finisher of the Ironman Triathlon, which consists of a 2.4-mile swim, a 112-mile bike, and a 26.2-mile run. In October 2005, as racer number 813, Pete competed and proudly finished the Ironman World Championship in Kailua Kona, Hawaii. Pete and his wife Robin have been happily married for over 30 years, and they spend their time enjoying a very active and full life around the world. Introduction. From my journal, August 2, 2010, Breckenridge, Colorado. In an easy and relaxed manner, in a healthy and positive way, I am now building total financial success and abundance. For the highest good of all concerned, this or something better is now manifesting on our behalf. Today is another magical day in Breckenridge because as I write these words, I am sitting on the deck of the log home, enjoying a cup of coffee, and the log home I am referring to is the home on my vision board. I am not sure if I can even comprehend what has happened over the past 3 days. It actually goes back to December of 2006 when I took pictures of Colorado for my vision board. To be sitting on the deck overlooking the golf course and the 10-mile range today is like being in a dream. The feeling reminds me a lot of when I did the Ironman in Hawaii, and on the bike, I was wondering if I was in heaven. Today is very much the same thing. There is a difference now, and that is this is undeniably concrete proof that the universe will give you whatever you request. I thought the same when I got to Kona, but with the lottery, there was always the outside chance it was random, even though I visualized it being in the race every day for 3.5 months. Now, with this recent miracle/creation/manifestation, I am convinced beyond any shadow of a doubt that we can be, do, or have anything in this world if we will see it, believe it, and give gratitude for it. This is a story I must share. Thank you, Lord, for this and all the blessings to come. Thank you. Thank you, thank you. This was an amazing journal entry I made almost 7 years ago, and it is what prompted me to write my first book, VisualFestation: How I Manifested the Life of My Dreams and You Can Too. I would have put that journal entry into my first book had I remembered that I actually had it. Not until a few years later did I come across the entry while going through my journals. I remember writing it down on the porch of the Vision House on the day caught in the picture above. Knowing how powerful that journal entry is, I decided to share it with everyone in this book. It has been almost 5 years exactly since I completed VisualFestation, and the doorway to more miracles showing up in my life experience has been nothing short of amazing, and my life is truly magical. The spiritual growth I have experienced over the same time has been truly transformational as well. Serendipity again proved to be an active player, and the right set of circumstances landed me in the middle of the mountains of North Carolina for a 6-month sabbatical. Initially, it was just a plan to escape the heat of another Florida summer, but it turned out to be a great journey within. What I will be sharing with you in this book will be anything but superficial. Some things which I will share with you from my personal experience may seem almost impossible to be true, but I assure you they are. My intent for writing this book is to give you all the things you need to create and manifest the life of your dreams. Once you have read this book, you will have the tools required to do just that. It will then be upon you to take up your own hero's journey to deliberately create and live the life of your dreams. From law of attraction to deliberate creation to today. I would like to start off by talking about the law of attraction. The law of attraction to most people is something esoteric. They might have heard the term, but they really could not describe it in any detail what it was if you asked them. I know how this is, as I really never heard about it myself until around the year 2006, when I saw the film The Secret, and later read the book by Esther Hicks called The Law of Attraction, which is funny, as I had been working with it for years, and I had never heard of it. I was just working with spirit during my hour of power every morning. In my hour of power, I was using techniques which I developed on my own intuitively, which I practiced every morning on the beach. After practicing these techniques, which later became my VisualFestation System, my life changed completely. Before I knew it, my life had gone through a whirlwind of events, and it was so amazingly good that it was almost hard to comprehend. I actually went from living the life of my dreams in my imagination to actually living the life of my dreams, which I created into my reality. Knowing deep down there was something big going on, and if I could harness and direct that power, I could manifest essentially anything. That fact was confirmed the following year, when I won the lottery to get into the Ironman World Championship Triathlon in Kailua Kona, Hawaii in 2005. After that experience, I knew that my system would work for anything that I desired. I remember when I was getting interested in quantum physics. Quantum physics essentially revealed that an observation in a laboratory environment was affected by the minds of the scientists experimenting. That was an incredible insight into what had manifested into my life. The potential meaning on a grander scale became clear. If mind and directed thought could control the events we experience, then we could manifest anything through the proper and focused use of our imagination. Deep down inside, I knew this was true. This phase in awareness was what I deemed to be the co-creator phase with the law of attraction. I stayed with this phase of understanding for about 7 years. In 2010, I manifested the house I had on my vision board for 4 years, and when that happened, something inside of me shifted, and I had what can best be described as a true knowing. Realizing there was no other explanation except that I had successfully manifested it in, opened the door to the fact there was more going on in our reality than anyone was talking about. It was almost as if I had come across a great secret about ourselves, and I was one of only a handful of people who would even dare discuss the topic. To mainstream organized religion, this was pure heresy, and to the overwhelming majority of the world, it was something that they could not even comprehend to be true. Knowing this truth, if understood and used appropriately, could change anyone's life, I wrote my book, VisualFestation, to share this knowledge with the world in the most straightforward way I could. Putting it all down on paper only reinforced that these techniques worked beyond any shadow of a doubt. To deny what I had worked on and manifested now was to argue with hard facts. Law of attraction theory had now gone from positive thinking to manifestation. Essentially, with limited understanding of what working with God was about, people were getting real results in their lives, and it was happening fast. Deliberate creation. After writing the book, it was almost like my awareness grew exponentially. It was as if Spirit knew that I could handle more information about our abilities and powers of creation, and I was being made aware of these truths. The more of these truths I was sharing with others, the more of these truths came in. With greater knowledge came greater confidence and faith in my ability to manifest what I desired, and things were manifesting even faster with amazing results. As time went on, more truths came into my being, and eventually, I knew that I was actually a spirit, having a physical experience, and not the other way around as most people believe. Over the past 3 years, the information I received from Spirit has been incredible. I will warn you, it is going to be a mind stretch if you have never heard this information before. I was going to hold a lot of it back, as I felt it would turn some people off. After meditating on it, though, I realized this information might help a lot more people in their lives if they knew it. What sounds profound today may seem normal to you tomorrow as your understanding grows. I warned you I would take you down the rabbit hole, so here we go. Reality. So what exactly is reality? Most people believe that everything that they can see, feel, or touch to be their reality. There is a lot more going on than meets the eye. In my experience, I have realized that we are the deliberate creators of our life experience, and we don't even realize it. I have experienced some enlightening moments in meditation, which for me have helped me understand our human experience a little better. To take that a few steps further, I have been shown how the law of attraction works in our experience. The information came in the fall of 2015 while I was spending time in the mountains of North Carolina. A good friend shared some guided meditations with me, which he purchased as part of a class. Being one who always wants to learn more, I set aside some quiet time and I listened to the 6 meditations, which gave me some incredible insights into my life experience and our reality as a whole. If you want to learn about what your life experience is about, you will need to get comfortable with concepts which are going to take you straight down the rabbit hole. Before I go any further, I want you to understand that what I am about to tell you is what I have found to be true for me. We all have the right to own our beliefs completely. That is how your life operates. If your beliefs differ completely from mine, that is perfect, and I respect you completely. Not everyone will be ready or open for what I am about to share, but whether you are open to it, the truth remains the same. The truth which I am referring to is that each one of us deliberately creates our own life experience. Whether or not you honestly believe that or not, it is the truth, and I have proven it repeatedly in my life. Unfortunately, the overwhelming majority of the people in the world do not understand this is true. One thing which may feel a little uncomfortable at first is that you are 100% responsible for your life. If your life is awesome, then give yourself a big hug, as you created it. If your life isn't going so hot in your opinion, then what you are about to learn in this book will show you how you can change everything in your life. You came into this thing called life to have a wonderful experience, and I am here to remind you of that fact, and also to show you how to achieve it. When you talk about subjects such as God or religion, everyone, for the most part, has a very definite opinion of what that means to them as the truth. What I will ask you to do is to put those powerful beliefs on hold and just listen to what I am going to tell you. I hope you will look at things differently after hearing what I am about to tell you. I have had awesome success working with the law of attraction for many years before I ever became privy to this information. Having a deeper understanding of our life experience only makes deliberately creating the life you desire that much easier. You need not know the textbook version of how it works to get results, but you need to have absolute faith it works if you want to get serious results. My true awakening to our creating our reality was revealed on October 15, 2005. I was on the big island of Hawaii, and I was racing in the Ironman World Championship Triathlon. I am assuming that you have read Chapter 2 of my book, VisualFestation, so you know all about the amazing experience which I had during that day. One thing which I did not include in that chapter was the message that came from Spirit while I was running the marathon portion of the race. It was pitch dark outside on the Queen K, and I was all by myself at around mile 24 of the run. What came to me telepathically from Spirit was that I had created this entire experience of racing in Ironman Hawaii. Seeing the feet kicking in the swim, and the helicopter flying over my bike while I was riding back to Kona, all of which seemed like carbon copies of what I had visualized for months prior to winning the lottery slot in the event. When the information came in telepathically, it was very calm, straightforward, and clear. Spirit essentially said that I created this entire experience, and there was nothing I could not create in my life experience which I desired. It honestly took me about 10 years to process what came through to me that evening. Winning the lottery was over the top. That we deliberately create our entire reality was a little too woo for me back then. But it is something I am comfortable with now. Another amazing thing shared with me about deliberate creation came through to me while I was following a guided meditation in North Carolina. I was shown that our reality is created through our personal vibration, and that things appear to manifest in our reality when we make an electronic connection to a complex grid made up of energy meridians. For me, this made total sense and confirmed much of what I already believed. Essentially, creation is already done and completed. Let me explain what I mean by that. Everything that you could desire has already been created, and it is essentially waiting for our command to bring it forth to our present experience. Once you understand this, then manifesting simply comes down to getting into the right vibration for whatever you desire to bring into your experience. How you effectively do this is by getting into the knowing that it is already done, and through living the experience in your imagination with feeling. I hope those explanations of reality haven't lost you completely. They are simply what was revealed, and they have proven to be true in my experience. The techniques which I will teach you in this book work. Period. Like I said earlier, you need not understand how the machine of creation works. You just must know how to run it for you. And that is what you are about to learn. So let's get started. The experience. Now that you have heard that you create your reality, it is time to live by design instead of by default. Most people have this idea that life is something outside of them and that life is happening to them. Most people believe this to be the truth, as that is what they are observing in their experience. As normal as this may sound, it is wrong. What they are observing is an illusion created by their thoughts, feelings, and beliefs about themselves and their reality. This is not some philosophical endeavor. Your human experience is just an experience. Imagine for a moment that what you are experiencing right now is something like a long dream you are actually having while you are awake. To take it one step further, imagine that you can control where this dream goes, as far as the events you will experience within it. You may want to reread that a few times to get the gist of what I am explaining to you. I am not saying that your life experience is not real. It is. It is just not what you have probably ever been taught before. Probably the easiest way to comprehend this is to realize that you are a spiritual being having a human experience. That sounds straightforward on the surface, but when you drill down to the true meaning, you realize this is precisely what I am talking about. The human experience feels as real as it can get. Your five senses are all communicating back to your mind constantly with the message that everything physical is actually your reality. So everything seems in agreement that you are here and that you are a physical being. To be told anything different simply must be wrong, as it goes against everything that you seem to experience in your day-to-day life. This is what you have been brought up to believe since the beginning, so it must be true. Agreements. How could most of the world all get it wrong? This is a great question, and the answer might seem a little too simple for such a complex thing as our reality, but it all comes down to one word, and that is agreements. The agreements I am referring to are what are known as pre-life agreements. Essentially, for you to come into this Earth/human experience, the greatest agreement you accepted was that you had to agree to forget temporarily that you were actually a spiritual being. As part of the forgetting process, you also agreed to forget that you had the power to create your experience. You always have had those powers. They have just been hidden from you as part of the agreement. If you knew you had these powers all along, you would have relied on them to change anything in your life that may have caused you pain, such as losing a loved one. By avoiding these experiences, you would not have had the full-on human experience, which is what you came here for. There are other agreements as well that you made which you probably are unaware of. Did you know that you picked out who your parents would be in this experience before you got here? You may be thinking that is the craziest thing you have ever heard. Why on earth would I choose to have parents that in your mind are so screwed up? The reason you picked them concerned what you would gain or learn from that experience. Let me share a personal experience from my life as an example. I am 9 years younger than my closest sibling, and the closest sibling was an accident. You can imagine their disbelief when my mother found out that she was pregnant over the age of 40 back in the mid-1960s. especially after one of my parents was deemed infertile after the last child, and 9 years later, they are pregnant again. Being so much younger than my siblings, I grew up with a vast degree of independence, especially after my mother passed away when I was 6 years old. It may sound tragic, and believe me, losing a parent when you are a child is anything but fun, but it forced me to become independent and self-reliant. Those were two of the traits which I wanted to have as part of my experience to help me achieve what I came here for. When you learn of the existence of pre-life agreements, a lot of things which seem to not make sense on the surface all of a sudden make complete sense. How often have you heard someone say something like, "How could a loving God ever let that kind of thing happen?" when they see or hear what seems to them to be a tragic event? The true underlying reason may well have been a pre-life agreement meant to help someone on their life journey experience great courage to overcome a huge challenge they might not have otherwise experienced. What appears to be absolute chaos at the surface is actually not chaos at all. It is just different souls experiencing the life experience which they agreed to. Other things you agreed to before getting here was whether you would be a male or female as part of your experience, and whether or not you would be gay or straight in your sexuality. Who and what you are is simply perfect, and there is not something wrong with you which society would lead you to believe. You are here to be you, so embrace it and love yourself as you are perfect. Deja vu. Another secret of the ages is that reincarnation is real, and that you have the chance to return to the human experience, and many of us have numerous times. You don't remember that either, as part of your current experience, and the reason is so you don't get obsessed about your past life or lives, but instead so you focus 100% on your current experience. When you have those moments where you swear that you have been someplace before or met someone for the first time, and feel as though you have known them forever, you probably have and do. Just accept this and move on, knowing you truly will never stop being spirit, and that you are timeless. One thing which I have learned from my own prior life experience is that we can carry baggage from one life experience into the next. Emotional issues which you don't resolve in this lifetime will be with you to resolve in your next life experience, and it will continue that way until they are resolved, so you can move forward. To give you a first-hand example of this, let me again give you something from my personal experience. In a past life, which was revealed while I was in deep meditation, I was a pioneer, living in the mountains of the American West around the year 1860. In the vision, I saw myself crossing some snow-covered mountains with a pack horse, and I was in a terrible winter storm. It was evening, and I was trying to get back to my wife and small child at home in our cabin. At one point, the trail gave way, and I plunged to my death off a cliff I was trying to cross. I remember feeling a tremendous sense of guilt for failing to get home to my family before being killed. Here's what I learned from that experience which accompanied me into this current life experience. When I was a young child around the age of 5, I had the same dream almost every night for what seemed like a year. In the dream, I was always being chased by something, and at one point, there was this wall I had to jump off to get away from whatever was chasing me. In the dream, I would jump off of the wall, and I would just keep falling into the void, never hitting bottom, and falling until I woke up terrified from the dream. The experience of falling to my death is something which came over from that past life, and I never understood it until I saw how I had died, and it suddenly made all the sense in the world. Another thing that came over to my current life from that prior experience was this almost obsession I have had my entire life about almost being the person to count on when something important needed to be done. That is fine when I achieved it, but if I let anyone down, I would suffer from tremendous guilt, which was not commensurate with the actual event in this experience. Basically, on a scale from 1 to 10, with 10 being the highest, what should have been a rating of 3 on the scale for a normal reaction, I was always experiencing the feeling of disappointment internally around a 10 on the scale. I honestly never understood why I was so wired that way until I saw what happened in that past life, and again, everything fell into place and made complete sense. I was still carrying that feeling of guilt from not getting back to my young family from that prior life experience. When you get down to the core of your current life experience, you will see that the entire reality you are experiencing is driven by your internal beliefs and emotions. Essentially, your reality is a mirror reflecting back to you what you believe about yourself and the world you live in. Knowing you can change the reflection, your reality, through changing your thoughts, beliefs, and emotions is about as powerful as it gets. And the truth is, you can. The collective experience of the world. Besides your individual life experience, there are approximately 7.6 billion other spirits having a human experience with you at this time on Earth. That is a staggering amount of different individual realities happening simultaneously. I would guess that less than 0.1% of the world's population have ever heard of the law of attraction. So almost all the world's population is running their experience by default, and that they have no idea that they are creating their life experience. One challenge of not knowing you are the deliberate creator of your experience is that you are vulnerable to getting influenced by outside sources and their energies. You have been exposed to massive amounts of brainwashing since you were born, and most of everything you heard was incorrect. If you took a day and observed every one of the 50,000 plus thoughts in your mind for one day, you would notice that most are just based on past conditioning, and you are not really thinking them. Instead, they are coming in almost like rounds from a machine gun, being shot into your consciousness. My guess is that for every real thought you consciously think, there are another 500 just showing up, and you aren't even sure where they are coming from. If you tried to track down the source of the miscellaneous thoughts that popped in on their own, you would realize that they are not your thoughts, but someone else's thoughts, which you were exposed to, which are now being repeated in your head. If they are repeated long enough, you will actually believe them to be true, whether or not there is any truth in them whatsoever. This is especially true if you have been raised in a religious family like I was. As a child, I was forced to attend Sunday school since I was old enough to be allowed in. My father was very active in our local church as a deacon, and it was a major part of his life. As a teenager, I will never forget how disappointed he was when, as a young adult, I told him I would not be joining the church as a member. That had never happened in our family before, so he was a little shocked. One thing which I had a hard time buying into was that almost everything that I had heard was based on what seemed like blind faith. Almost like when a child asks a parent for something, and the parent says no, and then the child asks why, and the answer is because I said so. For me, something just never felt right. And now that I am older, I know exactly why it didn't feel right. And the reason was that they got the whole thing wrong. God was not up in some faraway place called heaven and waiting for us to break commandments so we could go to Judgment Day and be sent to a place called hell for an eternity of damnation. Oh, and by the way, the definition they gave me of God was love. So my thinking was, if God is love and he loves me unconditionally, then why would he ever send me to hell as punishment? Exactly, he or she wouldn't, and I would assuredly be forgiven. I am not sure when it actually happened in history. My guess is it was probably 100 years after Jesus was here. Men made up their own version of what he taught to empower themselves and control others. And now, over 2,000 years later, it is still going on. That God is not within you and is someplace outside of you is simply not true. We are all gods, and we honestly have the power of creation over our life experience. We are all part of all that is, and I think that is a better description of what God is. In the Bible, there is a verse in the book of Mark. It is actually Mark 11:23, and it is a quote from Jesus, which I read every day. For verily I say unto you, that whosoever shall say unto this mountain, Be thou removed, and thou cast into the sea, and shall not doubt in his heart, but shall believe that those things which he saith shall come to pass, he shall have whatsoever he saith. My interpretation of this parable is that Jesus knew that our world is an illusion, and we can do anything with the illusion if we believe we can. He was teaching us how to create the reality we desire, and he knew from his own personal experience it worked. Miracles are things which happen through you, not outside of you. Know now that you do have this power, and it is inside of you waiting to be called upon. I will show you later in the book how to actively and effectively do this in your own life. The physical influence of outside energies. Everything in our experience, when you come down to it, is energy. Everything that you see, touch, or experience when you get down to the smallest level is just different collections of energy vibrating at different rates. One thing that I must make you aware of is that physical locations can transfer outside energies towards you, which can affect how you feel and operate when you are near them. You know this to be true intuitively. I am sure you have had the experience where you have been someplace and it just didn't feel right. You could not put your finger on it, but you knew it didn't feel like a place you wanted to stay around. What I believe is happening in those instances is that we are picking up on a collective energy, which is created by several people in the same area repeatedly having similar thoughts and beliefs. I have been where there has been poverty for ages, and you can pick up on it when you visit areas like that. It is almost like you feel slightly depressed for no reason that is visible. What's happening is that you are picking up on the vibration of that area, and it is affecting you. If you stay there too long, it will actually affect your reality in a negative way. I have seen this in my own life before, so I can explain this firsthand to you. For a few years, my wife and I lived in a large retirement community in Florida, while we had a business there. It was almost hard to explain to a person who has not lived there, but it seemed as though there were 100 angry people for every happy person. Instead of being polite and friendly to each other, they seemed almost hostile to each other. And almost every day there was another "you won't believe what I just saw" type moment. It wasn't too long before my wife and I picked up on it, and the vibration changed us for the worse. We started being short-tempered, and basically acted like jerks to each other, which is not something we had ever done before. We finally recognized what was going on after we left town and spent 6 months in the mountains of North Carolina. Getting back to nature and away from a sea of negativity simply felt awesome. We actually didn't even want to return, but we had personal items we wanted to retrieve from the home we needed to get before selling it. After being away and returning, we were even more attuned to the negative energy of the community. It was almost like the volume of the bad energy was increasing daily, and it was affecting everyone near it. After selling our house and moving away from there, we finally felt like we had gotten our normal lives back. We each felt better, both mentally and physically, and our vibration had returned to its higher natural state through a change in our physical location. I want you to look and honestly assess where you are currently living. What does it feel like to live there? Are the people who live there happy, or are they living in fear? I hope you live in a good place with a positive vibration to it. If you are not, then please take my advice and move away when you can. It will be a lot easier for you to manifest positive events into your life experience if you are not fighting outside energies pulling your vibration down. The divine laws of your experience. One thing that you must understand about your life experience is that everything in your experience operates under a set of divine laws, which are always in place. They always work, and they work the same way for everyone in this experience, and they have been here since the beginning. Understanding these laws are in place and that you can work with them to achieve your desired outcome is nothing short of having the power of the entire universe at your command. These divine laws are in place, and they are always running. They are also impartial, and they will return to you whatever you think and believe of them. Unfortunately, ignorance of these laws does not exclude you from their effects and the resulting reality you experience. Another thing you must know is these divine laws will never contradict you, and that they always say yes to whatever you think into them. They also are under your complete control, and the effects of a lifetime of wrong thinking can be reversed in an instant through effectively focused thought. This is precisely how miracles are created and experienced in people's lives. Let me give you an amazing example of what I am talking about. I met a lady a few years ago who shared an amazing story with my wife and me. This lady, who was only around 40 years old, had been placed in hospice with an incurable disease, and in one moment, she made the decision she had had enough of this nonsense in her life, and at that moment, she experienced what is known as a spontaneous healing. I remember her telling us about how the people who worked at the hospice kept trying to convince her she was sick and about to die, and she is telling them, "I feel great and let me out of here." Hearing her story firsthand was so inspirational. I honestly don't have words to describe how powerful it was. Knowing her story to be the absolute truth, the best advice I can give you is to believe in miracles. They happen every day. Free will. I will close out of this chapter with a brief discussion on free will. Even though you may have made agreements before coming into this experience, do not think for a second you are somehow bound by what people call fate. Maybe you set something up beforehand, which seems like a massive challenge. That was only because you knew that you could handle and overcome it. It was meant as an opportunity for you to experience growth. It was not punishment you were trying to force upon yourself. The term free will, I think, is better described as free thought, as you are always free to change what and how you think. Using this ability effectively will change your entire human experience, and this power is embedded in all of us. Part 1 Summary. I hope I have not lost you with our discussion about reality, what your true life experience is about. The information I have shared with you came directly from Spirit into my experience. I admit some of the stuff blew me away when I first came to understand it. If it seems like it is too new age or whatever to you, don't worry about it. You don't need to understand how the machine of creation works. You just must know how to work with it to get results. And we will get to that further along in the book. Limiting beliefs. Before we dig any deeper into the dynamics of successful deliberate creation and manifestation, we really must talk about something holding each one of us back from reaching our full potential, and that is ourselves. What do I mean by that? It is very simple. Our beliefs about ourselves either empower us to greatness, or they keep us in our comfort zone, which is the status quo. By staying in the status quo, there is never any need to feel bad about not achieving something, and you make no one else uncomfortable with the fact that they too are not striving for something bigger and better in their lives. Why would anyone choose to stay in the status quo? The answer is very simple, and it can be summed up in one word, and that word is fear. FEAR is just an acronym for false evidence appearing real. Almost every single reason or excuse why most people do not take action comes down to fear, and 99.99% of fear is simply in your mind and no place else. As soon as you think about what your life could be like if you left the status quo, you will be bombarded by many thoughts based on fear. Let's say you are thinking about opening up your own business and leaving the rat race behind. More than likely, you will get hit with these fears. What if it fails and I lose all of my savings? Most businesses fail within their first year. It is too risky to be an entrepreneur when you have a family which relies on you. It would be irresponsible for me to take such a risk. If I become successful, I will lose all my friends because they will be jealous. If I make a lot of money, then I will have to pay a bunch of taxes and I will be harassed and audited by the IRS. People who are self-employed work 7 days a week, and if I do that, I will lose touch with my family and probably end up divorced, and I won't see my children. I had better wait for the economy to improve before I try doing anything new. I had better wait and save up more money before trying to go into business. I have no MBA, so I had better wait until I do, as that will make it more likely my business will succeed. If I leave my job and become self-employed, it will be hard for me to get financing to buy a house, so I should hold off until I buy a home. What if the business fails, and then I cannot find a job? Then what? How will I pay my bills? What if I open a business and I go bankrupt? How will I ever financially and emotionally recover from it? What if fill in the blank happens? After rolling through such an exhaustive list of fear-based thoughts about what could go wrong by being an entrepreneur, the overwhelming majority of people in the world decide to play it safe and stay in their comfort zone. We will talk more about this later, but this entire decision to not become an entrepreneur was based on fear-based thoughts in your head around events which never happened. Again, it was all based on false evidence appearing real. If this sounds familiar to you, don't think for a moment you are alone. You are just like almost everyone else in the world. So where did these thoughts and beliefs come from? They came from your environment, from the day you were born until where you are now today. Let's look at the different sources in your environment which have directly affected your belief system about yourself and the world in which you live. Parents are by far the greatest influence on any child, and they have had an effect on you, whether it was good or bad. Unfortunately, most parents are only passing down to their children the same fear-based nonsense they received from their parents, who received it from their parents, and it has been going on for generations. Unfortunately, 95% of what you probably heard while you were growing up was absolute fear-based nonsense, and it was coupled with a total ignorance of the law of attraction. They didn't negatively program you on purpose, they just knew no better. Besides your parents, there are other very strong sources of influence you are exposed to, such as your friends, the schools you attended and the teachers you had, the community you grew up in, the culture you associate with and their beliefs, the religious beliefs you have and the beliefs of the associated religion you were exposed to, the beliefs associated with your race consciousness, the beliefs associated with your gender and sexuality, the associated beliefs of your political leaders and your country, the news media, and what you are exposing yourself to. Let's look closely at these forces of influence. What do your friends believe about success? Are they successful themselves? Do they believe the world is their oyster and opportunity is theirs for the taking? Or do they believe that they are doomed to live a life of hardship? Take a close look at who your friends are and ask yourself if remaining in their orbit will heighten or lessen your chances of success. What did you hear from your teachers when you were growing up? Did they tell you you were a brilliant student, or did they tell you you should probably look at attending a trade school because you didn't have what it takes to graduate from college? If you bought into their ridiculous assessment, what kind of effect did that have on your beliefs and what you could or could not accomplish? What kind of community did you grow up in, and what do most people who live there believe? Did you grow up in a community with a poverty mindset, or did you grow up in a community with a mindset that believed you could achieve anything through hard work? Did you buy into what everyone else your community collectively believed? Did you grow up in a tight-knit culture that has had ancient rituals and beliefs about the roles of daughters and sons toward family and society? If so, did you accept those predetermined roles, or did you choose a different path? What was the religious doctrine you were exposed to? Did you buy into it on face value because everyone else did? What role is it playing today in your life, and how is it affecting your beliefs about what you should or should not be doing? Do you believe that your race is an asset to success, or do you believe that it is a hindrance to your ability to succeed? Is it true, or is it just a belief that most people who look similar to you believe? Do you feel that your opportunities are limited based on what your gender or sexuality is? Is this something that you believe to be true? Do you believe what the political leaders tell you from the bully pulpit as the absolute truth about reality and opportunity and what you can achieve? How exposed are you, and what is your perception regarding what the media is feeding you during the 24-hour news cycle? Do you believe everything you hear? And is it affecting how you view your personal reality? These outside forces have affected what you presently believe, whether or not they were obvious influences. Besides outside forces, you also have developed a belief system about who you are and what you can accomplish. We all have different traits, and how we self-identify with ourselves has a big impact on our belief system. Many people suffer from low self-esteem, and they do not believe that they are successful or that they could ever be successful. Another all too common self-sabotaging internal belief is to identify yourself as a victim of whatever you say you are the victim of. It is basically your excuse for why you are not successful or happy, and in the victim world, the victim is never responsible for their outcomes. Identifying what your limiting beliefs are is the first step towards eliminating them from your life experience. Once you have identified them, you can then work to convert them to empowering beliefs, which inspire you to accomplish greater and greater things. For every limiting belief you identify that you have, I want you to take a real hard look at where that belief came from, and does it have any truth to it in your life? More than likely, it is just some non-empowering thought which you have been repeating in your mind, which is completely false. Removing limiting beliefs is easy once you have identified them for what they are, and that is a lie which you have been telling yourself. Affirmation statements are an excellent way to replace limiting beliefs with empowering beliefs. For each limiting belief you identify, create an affirmation statement which acts to remove and replace the limiting belief. Let's assume that you have the limiting belief you do not have enough money available to support a local charity. A great affirmation you could repeat during the day could be, "I am blessed with abundance and more than enough money is always there when I need it." Affirmations are the easiest ways for us to take back our power and neutralize the effects of any limiting beliefs. Remember that limiting beliefs have more than likely been a part of your being for a number of years, so don't expect them to disappear overnight. With consistency of your affirmations and through controlling your thoughts, you can bring about the change required for you to move on to greatness and remove the roadblocks to success you put in your way you didn't even realize. I cannot overemphasize how important this is to your personal success. Your beliefs and expectations, whether they are positive or negative, create your reality. To achieve massive success, eliminate any limiting beliefs which may be holding you back. Your success depends upon it. Remember, there are no limits when working with the law of attraction, unless you say there is. Now let's move forward and dig in to the 7 master keys for success. Master key: decide. The first master key we will discuss is decide. We discuss this key first, as it will be the foundation around which the rest of the keys will work towards. The secret and the beginning of manifesting anything comes down to deciding what you want to experience. That sounds simple and straightforward until you have dug deep down to answer it. One of the first things I need to warn you about is making the mistake of achieving something that is really someone else's dream for you and not your own. This is more common than you can imagine. We are brought up from the very beginning that if we please those around us, we will get love and attention. Many of us stay in this pattern from childhood through adulthood. I don't care how old you are. It is almost like being stuck in a perpetual guilt trip. If you look around you and listen to what your family and friends are saying, you will see this in action. How often in your life have you not done what you wanted to do, but instead made a difficult choice based on some old program running in your head that told you you are being selfish and you should do something different? If you recognize that pattern in your life, congratulations, as you can now do something about it. Don't think for a moment it is some type of special challenge. It is not. Unfortunately, this is considered normal conformist behavior. That might be great if you were someone's pet, and you rely on your master for food and survival, but you are not. I will warn you up front that once you stop playing the should game and start playing the you game, some people will not be too happy, and they may feel fear as you are now living life for you. I am not saying you need to destroy all of the relationships in your life, but any that are toxic and holding you back will require some tough choices. I have had to make these very choices in myself, and I know firsthand what it is like to feel guilt on the inside and resentment from others on the outside. Trust me, the temporary pain is worth it if you want to grow and live an extraordinary life. My guess is that if you are reading this book, then it is clear that you are looking for a change. Big change. Well, if you want to change, you will need to get comfortable with the fact that you are headed for a new and exciting adventure. There is no passion in life if you spend all your time in your comfort zone. If you just want to see years disappear from your life fast, act just like everyone else. The point I am trying to drive home to you is the incredible importance of deciding to go after what you alone truly want. I have met countless people waking up in their 40s and 50s and realizing that they have spent their entire working careers doing what they have no passion for, and they feel stuck and believe that it is too late to start over and follow their true passion. I can say this so convincingly because I have been there and done that. I know what it is like to wake up one day and go to a job I despised and ask myself, what the hell am I doing? Is this what I am here for? How did I get it so wrong? If this sounds way too familiar to you, all I can say to you is that you have come to the right place, and where you are at is only a temporary experience. Let us continue. First off, you must decide what you want to be, do, or have in this life experience. If you could answer that question really quickly, it is probably not the right answer, because if it was that easy to answer, then why are you not already doing it? Are you that much of an accomplished procrastinator? For your sake, I hope that is not you. The best way to help you answer those big questions is to ask you another question, and that is, if money was not an issue and you could do anything, then what would you do? Once you can answer that question, you are on the right track, as deep down inside, that is your true passion. Now that you have answered the what part of the question, there is another equally important question to answer, and that is why. Once you have your what right, the answer to the why will be deep, and when you drill down to the core, the answer will be love, joy, and excitement. The answer will not be along the lines, I could make a six-figure income. Let me save you from making a huge mistake through sharing some sage wisdom with you. And that is, if you chase the money first, you will always be chasing happiness. If you instead pursue happiness first, the money will show up, and you won't need to chase it. Nothing is wrong with being wealthy, but choose happiness first. All the money in the world will not make a difference in your life if you are not happy and healthy. Another thing which I must share with you is that when you create the intention of what you desire to experience, and you know how good it will feel once you experience it in your life, the next thing you need for success is the ability to believe it could honestly be true for you. One of the greatest secrets to deliberately creating and manifesting comes down to your ability to believe that it will happen. Repeating affirmations and the other techniques which I will teach you will have zero success if you honestly do not believe it could happen. I am not saying don't go big. I am saying just make sure you believe the big can happen. Better yet, believe that the big has already happened and that it is on its way to you this very moment. When you know why you want something, and when you can get into the feeling of what it will be like when it shows up with the belief that it is true and on its way, then you will have mastered the key of decide. Master key, action. Once you have mastered the key of decide, the next key to master is action. I have a saying I am very fond of, and that is deeds, not words. Talk is cheap, and the universe will not buy into your trash talk. Everything in our experience is energy, and taking action sends the message to spirit you are serious. The quickest way to get from where you are to where you want to be is to get started now. If you want to experience immediate failure with manifesting anything, simply don't take action or do the work I am about to teach you. Most of the world loves the status quo, so you won't be alone in the collective suffering of living a life without passion. You will just be like everyone else who describes themselves as normal. The first action item I will teach you is what I call my hour of power. If you asked me what I thought the greatest key to my success with deliberate creation is, the answer would be taking the action of practicing my VisualFestation System every single day. The techniques which I practice every single day include reading spiritual motivating material, reading my written affirmations set up as I am statements, working with Jaden Sterling's Wealth and Wisdom, oracle cards, scripting in my journal, reading and reviewing my vision book, practicing creative visualization, getting into the feeling of as if. I have found that the best time to practice my hour of power is early in the morning, as it keeps life from getting in the way of doing it. Some techniques will seem easier on certain days to practice, so don't freak out if one day your visualization exercise is not perfect. When that happens, simply focus more on the other techniques. Do not ever blow off your hour of power on the excuse that a technique didn't click for you. One way of mastering the key of action is to always be gaining ground and bringing your dream closer to your reality every day. One of the first action items I highly suggest doing once you decide what it is you are going for and why you want it is to write out what I call your ideal scene. In your ideal scene, I want you to imagine that everything that you are working on has already manifested in your life. And now, you are describing in words what your life is like and how incredible it feels. When you have done this correctly, every time you read your ideal scene, it will make you feel awesome, as you are getting to the feeling it is absolutely so. Once you have effectively developed your ideal scene, the other VisualFestation techniques are built to support your ideal scene's manifestation. The techniques. I am constantly reading spiritually motivating material, and there are an incredible amount of great works which you can access for free from the internet. Some works will resonate more with you than others, so stick with the works you enjoy. Not every book out there was written for you, but some you will find were. This is your journey, so run with what works for you. After reading some spiritually motivating material, I will then read affirmations I have written down on index cards, and they are always in the affirmative as I am statements. And they are always in the present tense. An example of one affirmation is, I am a manifester of wonderful things and experiences. You can either read them aloud or silently to yourself. There is no wrong or right way. Just go with what feels better for you. Typically, after reading my affirmation statements, I will write out this question in my journal. What is the most important thing that I need to know today? I will then ask that question to Spirit by using my friend Jaden Sterling's Wealth and Wisdom Daily Oracle cards. The clarity of the information I receive is almost uncanny on some days, and I will write down the title of each one of the 4 cards I selected in my journal. I have been using these cards for a long time now, and the information gets clearer each day as your intuition grows. Trust it. If the information is not clear, simply ask the question again, and keep asking it until you pull cards that make sense to you. It's your absolute right to ask for help and guidance, so don't feel as though you will hurt the universe's feelings by asking more than once. Once I am clear with the information I've received from the oracle cards, which is just my higher self assisting me with this experience, I will then do a scripting session where I will write in my journal and give thanks and gratitude for everything in my ideal scene being true and present in my reality now, and for how amazing my life is. Think of it almost like a vivid thank you note you are sharing with God. When you do this correctly, you will end up with tears of joy in your eyes by the time you are done writing. I will typically write 1 to 2 pages, but you may write more if you get on a roll and it is flowing. Always go with the flow and never try to force it to happen. After scripting, I will read some motivational quotes I have retyped and added to my vision book, and I will review the pictures in the book, which are a visual representation of my ideal scene. Once the images are fresh in my mind, I will then get quiet and do my creative visualization exercise, which for me is my most powerful technique. Once I am relaxed, I will close my eyes and I will live my ideal scene in my imagination as done and true. This technique is powerful, and I have manifested things into my reality that were almost carbon copies of what I have visualized to where it is almost beyond belief. Once the pictures and the associated experience have manifested, I will then move the pictures to the back of the book as proof in my Mission Accomplished section, which I review occasionally as further confirmation this stuff works. After visualizing, the next thing I will do is rewrite my goals on an index card I will carry with me throughout the day, which also acts as like a to-do list, as I write down tasks that are important for that day. That wraps up what I do every single morning of my life, and throughout the day I will practice another technique which I call as if. There, I will again get into the feeling that everything in my ideal scene has manifested. Trust me, if you will do what I do every day, you will have mastered the key of action, and the miracles will be yours. Master key, focus. The ability to consciously control your thoughts and remain focused on that which you desire is the next key you must master. There is incredible power in focused thought. The more focused your thought becomes, the sooner you will manifest anything that you are working on. Having the ability to maintain your focus on what you desire when it seems on the surface that the entire world is crashing around you is no simple feat. Most people have spent their entire lives worrying about things and then having the experience of what they fear showing up in their reality. It is the same principle in action, and it always is working. The craziest thing, though, is that most of the world has no problem believing in things getting worse for them, but at the same token cannot believe that changing what they think and focus on will bring about a different and better reality. One of the best quotes which I ever heard was that, "Worrying is like praying for what you don't want to have happen." When you are in a state of worry, fear, or worse yet, crisis, it is almost as if your mind has hijacked your being, and it is causing you to suffer both mentally and physically. Trust me, I have been there myself, and I have worked with clients when they are experiencing those states. It is not a place where you want to spend any time in, and the trick to slaying those monsters is to make the firm decision that your mind works for you and takes your commands, and not the other way around. This will stop the fear train in your mind so you can get off it. If you don't do this, you will ride that train like Casey Jones until it crashes. Be conscious of every thought running through your head, and ask yourself whether that thought is empowering you to achieve that which you desire, or is it a fear-based negative thought which is attempting to hold you back. When you first start doing this, it will almost seem like a non-stop job, as you probably had no idea how many negative thoughts which you have been thinking day to day for a number of years. The good news is that it gets easier and easier to do, as the more you focus on what you desire, the less space there is for negative thoughts to exist. Appearances. Another important secret of success is never to focus on outside appearances as being something permanent. An example of this could be that you are let go from a job which you deep down hated but were too afraid to quit. Instead of focusing on fear about finding a new job, you instead focus on the fact that it happened for you. And miraculously, a few days later, you land a new position which pays more and that you love. Sometimes the greatest blessings that ever happen for us come in disguise as negative events. Your role is to know and stay focused on the fact that no matter what shows up, that it is happening for you. Through practicing controlled focus on the events happening for you, you will neutralize the effect of any negative thoughts from coming in. Through maintaining your ability to focus your thoughts on that which you desire, you are actually drawing what you desire into your reality and experience. The greater your ability to focus on that which you desire, the sooner it will show up in your experience. To take it one step further, you know you have this mastered when people around you think that you must be delusional. As who in their right mind could believe it is all working out for them when it looks on the surface to be anything but? When you can do this and control your mind, you have mastered this key and success is yours. Master key, faith. The next master key we will discuss is faith. Faith can have a lot of meanings. First off, I will make the assumption you believe there is a higher self, God, Great Spirit, Source Energy, or however you would like to describe it. I like to use the word spirit, as spirit never gets bogged down by people's religious beliefs. I am not here to get into any debates about religion. I think the best for me to share what I know with you would be to ask you to put any religious beliefs on hold. I have an amazing connection with Spirit, and I connect and commune with Spirit every single morning. One more thing I want to share with you too is that I am not what I would call a religious person. I believe in Spirit. I just don't feel the need to have any dogmas getting in the way with how I connect to Source. You always have a 100% connection to Spirit, so take everything else you hear with a grain of salt. You are a part of Spirit, whether you realize that or not, and Spirit is always with you and loves you beyond measure. Spirit is always there to help you, but Spirit is not there to micromanage your life experience. Mastering the master key of faith is a critically important piece towards mastering the deliberate creation. When I refer to faith, I am not referring to hope. Hope to me is a very weak word. It is more like, I hope this works, which to me has essentially zero faith. Now let's contrast that with, I know it works. When your faith rises up to the level of knowing, that is the place where you must be operating from. Knowing is beyond believing. In fact, you don't even need to think about it, as it simply becomes who you are and a part of your everyday life. Having faith at the level of true knowing will come to you over time if you keep working with Spirit. The reason I know this to be true is from my own personal experience. Believe me, once you manifest things into your experience, your level of faith will increase dramatically, as you will have proven it works for yourself. As soon as that happens, you will be asking yourself about what else do I desire to experience? And armed with greater faith, the time to your next manifestation will be shortened. One of the greatest things about mastering faith is that you take out the hows. When I refer to the hows, I am referring to having all kinds of thoughts and questions about how your miracle will come about. When you hang out in the land of the hows, you are demonstrating to the universe you don't trust the process. You want to believe it, but you still have lingering doubts it could be true for you. I have a great saying, and that is, when you doubt, you delay. So, unless you want to experience a greater wait time until your miracle manifests, I strongly suggest that you stay out of the hows. The hows are the domain of Spirit, so stay out of it and let Spirit handle the synchronicities that will take place for you to experience that which you have been working on. Today, I am at that level of faith where it is a pure knowing that deliberate creation works. I have proven it repeatedly in my own experience. When I started working with Spirit several years ago, I was not at the level I am today. So don't feel there is something wrong if you are not quite there yet. Mastering the key of faith will come to you over time, as you grow and become more aware of your own power and your ability to work successfully with the Spirit. Until you reach the level of faith which is the knowing, stay focused and trust that the process is working for you. And hold on to this trust as the truth, and ye shall have whatsoever ye saith. Master key, consistency. Everyone says that they want change. But how many do you think will show up every day and do the work necessary to facilitate change? The truth is, there are very few. Consistency, out of all the keys, is the easiest to master. It requires no special equipment, and you need not fly to Nepal either. So why does it seem like mastering consistency is the physical equivalent to climbing Mount Everest? For me, mastering the key to consistency was easy. In short, I wanted change in my life, and I would do whatever it took to achieve success. And that commitment is the same today as it was over 15 years ago. One of the greatest secrets to my success with manifesting is that I show up every single day and practice my hour of power. Before you say, well, it's easy for Pete Adams to do that. He is successful and doesn't have a job to go to. Well, years before that was true, I was getting up 3 hours before I had to be at work, so I could go to the gym for a workout and afterward drive down to the beach for my hour of power. And I did it every day. If it was raining out, I would simply grab a picnic table with a roof over it and do my hour of power there. That is the level of consistency where you must be to master this key completely. If you want results, Don't be like everyone else out there. Talk is cheap, and talking about practicing your hour of power when you can find time for it is pathetic. I have harsh news for you, and that is, if you are not willing to make the time to do the work, it is not going to happen on its own. Don't think for a moment you need to live near the beach or high in the mountains to practice your hour of power each day. You can simply wake up earlier every day and do it from your home. I bring everything with me wherever I travel, so I won't miss a single day. I must say I prefer being outside in nature, but if I must do it from my hotel room, I do. Success with the law of attraction is very simple once someone has explained it to you. If you do what I tell you, you will get great results. Mastering consistency is not about practicing your hour of power each day for 1 week and then quitting because you didn't manifest $1 million in 7 days. That is by far the most common mistake I see almost every newbie making. When their miracle doesn't show up by next Thursday, they say that the law of attraction doesn't work. That is something that could not be any further from the truth. When you have mastered the key of consistency, you commit to doing your part every single day until that miracle manifests. It could be a month, 6 months, or 3 years, or more. You might be thinking, 3 years? I don't have 3 years to wait. Well, I've got news for you. If you don't do your part, how long will forever be? That is a long time to wait. I've been working with spirit for several years, and I still do not understand how long anything that I am working on will take before it shows up in my experience. I know that it absolutely will. I just don't know exactly when. I would like to close out this chapter with an analogy I posted on our blog a few years ago. Imagine that you are a fisherman on a deep-sea charter, and suddenly you have a giant marlin on your line. The fish looks so big that it might be one for the record books. You know that if you stop turning your reel, you will never get the fish back to the boat. The marlin in the above example is your miracle, and turning the reel is the master key of consistency. Keep turning your reel until your trophy is landed. The fight is so much worth it. Master key, awareness. Another master key which can greatly shorten your path to achieving that which you desire is through awareness. The awareness that I am referring to is again probably something you have never heard of before. When I refer to awareness, I am referring to being consciously aware of communication constantly taking place with spirit to help you in your experience. What I am about to share with you is precisely what I have learned and used successfully in my own experience. Again, I must warn you that what you are about to learn will take you down the rabbit hole. The examples of communication I will share with you are firsthand from my own experience. Rather than beat around the bush, let's jump in feet first and get started. I am sure you have had the examples in your life where your intuition has kicked in and you get a feeling or a knowing about something. You can't quite put your finger on it, but something is pointing you in a certain direction or holding you back from doing something. Some people simply describe this feeling as a hunch. Everyone has experienced this in their life numerous times, so it seems normal and universal. And it is. This is where our conversation about awareness begins. The communication you receive in a hunch is actually communication coming to you from spirit. What you may not know is that we each can greatly enhance the clarity and the frequency of this type of communication. Through consciously developing your connection to spirit, you can open up the lines of communication to where you can tap into this channel of communication whenever needed. Spirit always knows the shortest and best path for you to take, and Spirit wants the best for you. Spirit is always there and waiting for you to ask for assistance. When I was first exposed to the idea that we each have spirit guides and angels available to help us with anything, I must admit that it was not something I was open to. That was 6 years ago, and the level of awareness and the extent of communication I have now is incredible. I admit I was a skeptic at first, but now I am a full-blown believer, and my life is so much easier than it was before I knew how to effectively communicate with my spirit guides. The best way to describe it is this: Imagine a machine has been sitting in your basement for as long as you can remember. You aren't sure how to use it, as you saw no instructions for it, but you were told from a very young age to never get rid of it, as it could one day save your life. That machine is your mind and its ability to communicate with spirit, and you have only to hit the start button and the machine works. To better explain this, let me tell you about how the lines of communication got started for me. In 2012, my friends Miles and Reba gave me a book called Animal Spirit Guides by Stephen D. Farmer. They are generous and loving people, who are also super spiritual and enlightened beings. Anyway, after receiving the book and thumbing through it, it was clear that this was not a book which you read, but instead a book you referred back to. I remember asking Miles how to use it, and he said that just having it was enough to receive guidance from Spirit, and he said to pay attention to your dreams each night. Knowing that Miles is about as tuned in as one could be, I paid greater attention to both my dreams and what was happening in the natural world around me. Almost immediately, I started having dreams at night with specific animals in them. It was almost like my guides had been waiting for this opportunity to communicate with me forever, and they had. The first experience I had in a dream involved me and a giant crow. I mean big, like 15 feet tall, and it was standing over me and just looking at me while I laid on the ground and looked up. I sensed that it was not there to hurt me, but it was so big that it scared me enough I woke up. Being one of the strangest dreams which I ever had, I grabbed the animal spirit book and looked up what a crow meant symbolically. The message from Spirit was that something which I had been working on for a long time was about to manifest. After a few short weeks after the dream, we bought another business which changed our lives, and it came to us from out of the blue. After that experience, I started paying attention to anything with animals in it, particularly dreams. I've been getting practical and profound information through my dreams ever since, and I keep a journal to record the dreams and their associated interpretations. When the information came in from my dreams, I trusted it totally, and I would implement it into my day-to-day experience. The more attention I placed on the information and acted upon it, the more that came in. Today, it is simply a normal part of my life, and the information I receive is divine. I wanted to share that story with you to show you how my awareness has grown. Besides dreams, there are a number of other ways that communication can be received from Spirit once you become aware and pay greater attention. One way communication comes through is through physical sensations in your body. The greatest example of this for me is when I will be thinking about something and suddenly my body will be covered in goose flesh, and the hairs on my arms and legs will stand straight up like I am being mildly hit with electrical current. My good friend Constance calls them confirmation bumps, and whenever that information comes in, she follows it. Another example of how communication takes place is through telepathy. With telepathy, it is nonverbal communication that comes to your mind, like a one-way conversation. It is a little hard to describe it with written words, but the information is always very clear and concise, and usually life-changing in importance. The best example I have of this was when the message came to me during Ironman Hawaii, that I had created the entire experience. It was almost like an aha moment, as Oprah would describe it, and in that moment, you are more enlightened. Another form of communication which I have been receiving over the past year could best be described as intuitive knowing. For me, the best way to describe it is with another analogy. Imagine for a moment you suddenly knew everything there was about quantum physics, and you never went to a university or took any courses on the subject. You simply have the information instantaneously. You know it to be true, and you, like me, have a hard time explaining it to people on the outside. Developing your awareness. The first step to increasing your awareness is to be open to any help available to you through a better connection with Spirit. The first step in this process is to drop the idea that you are alone and that you can figure it all out. If you stay with that mindset, you will waste decades of time seeking answers to deep questions which you could have had answered in a short period of time. That is not an effective or efficient way for you to expend your energy. The better way is to get your hands on a copy of Animal Spirit Guides and simply pay attention to your dreams. A very important caveat to what I just said is that you must believe, take in, and use this information when it comes. Your spirit guides will not spend all of their time knocking at your door if you never answer it. If you answer the door, your life will never, ever be the same again. Master Key: Gratitude. If there was only one key I could teach you, which would have the greatest positive effect on your life, that key would be gratitude. Gratitude is the key to an exceptional life. There is something universal about gratitude. It works wonders with any parts of your life. It is powerful, and it is the stuff miracles are made from. Having gratitude from wherever you are right now is your starting point. Too many people have this attitude they will give thanks once things in their life get better, which is a backward and useless approach. Not having gratitude now is probably the surest way to stay stuck in the place you are at. The quickest way in the world to bring good things into your life is to have gratitude now, not later. As soon as you give thanks for all that you have in your life, your vibration changes and you feel better. The better you feel, the greater your positive vibration. Resonating the vibration of gratitude is the God code for bringing in abundance. As soon as you say thank you to Spirit, Spirit responds. You feel good, and Spirit feels good. Spirit sends you more blessings, which makes you feel better, which makes Spirit feel better, and the cycle will continue as long as you stay in that vibrational path. There is no limit on how amazing your life can be. I need to warn you about something, and that is the quickest way for you to have a negative reversal of good fortune is to stop having gratitude to Spirit. You might have seen this in your own life, and I hope you never do. How often have you heard about someone famous who once had everything and now has nothing? If you looked into their lives, you would see a pattern whereby they had gratitude on the way up, lost gratitude at the top, and thought it was all about them. And on the way down to destruction, they blame everyone but themselves. You need not go to Hollywood to see this. It is happening all around you. Let me share with you a very simple example from my personal experience. A number of years ago, my wife and I moved around 1,000 miles from where we had grown up. Before we moved, we had a regular pattern of spending time with a particular group of friends every weekend. After being away for around 2 years, we returned for a visit over the Thanksgiving holiday. We reconnected with the same group of friends, and it was like we had never left. The same people were complaining about the exact same things as they were 2 years ago, which is about 7 years, as they had been complaining about the same thing for 5 years before we left. It is now almost 20 years later, and I would bet that the weekly pity party is on as scheduled. Sometimes you must get away from your friends and family to realize how much negativity is surrounding them, and which you too are feeding off. If you don't like your job, be grateful that you have one while you actively search for the right job. Being on that vibration will attract the right position for you. Having gratitude now for it being on its way to you is how you work with Spirit to make it happen. The way to make sure that it doesn't happen is to sit on your butt and complain about your present job. I've got bad news for you. It will only get worse until you wake up and give thanks. I have heard people say that what you think about, you bring about. Although that is a short saying, it is jam-packed with truth. Let me share with you a powerful example of this truth from my own experience. When I worked directly with Spirit to achieve that which I desired, I was at a place in my life full of financial challenges after being downsized. Instead of complaining about it, I practiced gratitude for the blessings in my life. Every morning I would write in my journal and thank God for the wonderful things in my life. From there, the daily ritual expanded, and I gave thanks for all the wonderful blessings on their way, such as having no consumer debt and how good it feels. If you have read my book, VisualFestation, you know how that story worked out. If you haven't read it, the results were incredible, and I manifested what I later called my 12 crazy goals. Knowing the difference that having gratitude has made in my life, I cannot stress the importance of having gratitude now. Besides the emotion of love, I don't believe there is a more powerful emotion we can have. It is an emotion and vibration that can move mountains and change worlds if you will let it. When your life becomes a nonstop prayer of thank you, you will know that you have mastered this key and your life will be nothing short of magical. Now, it is your turn. You are the deliberate creator of your experience, and it is up to you whether you want to do the work and manifest the life of your dreams. If you can see it in your mind's eye, it is available to you. Spirit doesn't play games, and Spirit will not allow you to imagine something and not provide it to you. My dream for you is that you will take this precious information and create the greatest life you can imagine. You came here to live the life of your dreams. Now it is up to you to convert this information into your desired reality. Your dreams are waiting for you. I wish you the best of everything. Pete. Additional resources. Pete's website, www.peterdadams.com. Pete's YouTube channel, www.youtube.com/user/VisualFestation. Constance Arnold's website, www.fulfillingyourpurpose.com. Constance Arnold's Think, Believe, and Manifest show on the Law of Attraction Radio Network, www.loaradionetwork.com/Constance Arnold. Jaden Sterling's website, jadensterling.com. Vibe Life website, vibelife.org.